Tom Wheelwright is back with us. He hasn't been on the show in quite a while, an author, a CPA, and Tom was telling me he doesn't think it's cold enough here, so he's going to Minneapolis tomorrow, right? Is that right?
Exactly. Well, grandbabies call.
Yeah, well, sure, you got to do that. A lot of people are not paying their taxes the way they're required to do so, and the Internal Revenue Service has ways of dealing with that. There's one that's causing concern right now, and it has to do with your passport.
Yeah, exactly. And this was actually part of the transportation bill that was just signed into law a couple of weeks ago, where if you are a serious delinquent taxpayer, which they define as you owe more than $50,000 and the IRS has been trying but unsuccessfully been getting you to pay that, they'll actually turn your information over to the State Department, who will pull your passport.
And you gave us an example of how a relationship could fall apart rather quickly as a result of that.
Yeah, can you imagine that you don't even know that your spouse-to-be has this big tax debt, and you start going on your honeymoon, you get to the TSA checkpoint, and they go, sorry, but come with us. Your passport is no longer valid.
Is there such a thing in Congress as a clean bill? I mean, it's odd that this is attached to a transportation bill.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, it's like nothing is just there. I mean, this would never have been passed by itself, I don't think. So they attach it to something that has to be passed, like funding your roads.
Well, I think you would agree with me, Tom, on this, that there are a lot of people who are obviously trying to avoid their taxes, but then there are others who could have had some problems causing them to have difficulty there, and then they turn to the IRS for help, and they can't get it.
Well, that's really the challenge. That people, a lot of people who owe $50,000 more, they've just fallen on hard times. They've got medical issues, et cetera. And the challenge here is that they might be even trying to get hold of the IRS by phone, and the IRS only answers 40% of the phone calls.
Why is that, Tom?
Well, that's simply because they don't
we've cut their funding and their staffing.
Exactly. Right? That's right. Their funding has been cut so much. It's a little bit like cutting the IRS funding is a little bit like when your business is struggling, you cut your marketing budget.
Because
that's our Congress at work.
It's pretty amazing, actually. And if anybody's tried to get a hold of the IRS, it used to take a tax professional 5 minutes. We have our own special number that we can call, hotline. It used to take us 5 minutes to get somebody. Now we have to sit on the phone for an hour and a half to get somebody, but at least we can get in.
And what effect do you think this holding up people's passports will have? Will this be effective for the IRS?
Well, that's the question. I mean, the question is, will this really have an effect? And it might, it might have an effect on a few people. I'm more concerned about the person that is really, truly struggling, that just can't get through the IRS. And really the only answer for them is they have to go to a tax professional. That's the only solution for them, because the tax professional can absolutely get through.
What is the deficit of funding, let me put it that way, with the IRS right now? What do they need to have enough people to handle personal problems?
Well, the challenge is the IRS, their budget has been cut every year for the last several years. And you're cutting their budget at the same time you're imposing Obamacare and other requirements that's going to require more and more of their staffing. Plus, on top of that, think of all of the challenges they've had with identity theft at the IRS and false tax returns, and they have to deal with all that, and they're not getting funding for that either. And I'm not a fan of the IRS. Don't get me wrong, but there's a customer service aspect to it. There's a fact that the IRS does collect money, and it's actually changed the way that IRS auditors, I think, look at an audit. It used to be that they looked at it as, we're just trying to look for compliance. And now it really seems to me like they're looking for, how do we collect the most money?
If somebody has their passport pulled, or whatever the phrase might be, will they be notified that this has happened?
Well, presumably. I mean, the bill doesn't specify, but hopefully they'll get some notification. Of course, we know how often those notifications, end up, well, it came from the government, so it must not be a real notification, or, people ignore things. So that's the trouble. I think, though, the other aspect of this bill that's troubling is the fact that now the IRS is mandated to turn over certain delinquent accounts to outside collection agencies.
Now, that's also from Congress.
That's in the same bill.
Yeah.
And it's mandated. It used to be optional. Now it's mandated. The troubling thing, of course, is we think the IRS is bad. You should try a collection agent who doesn't get paid unless he collects from you.
Oh, that's going to be a lot of fun there. And this bill has been passed.
It's been passed. It's been signed into law. That's right.
All right. Tom, any thoughts, any last suggestions here for people?
Yeah, well,
other than getting a tax professional.
Seriously, I mean, we talk about the Republicans debate last night, and they're talking about banishing the IRS and simplifying the tax law, and here you are, you're just making it more and more complex and making it so you have to have a tax professional in order to get something done.
Tom Wheelwright is an author, a CPA, a CEO, and if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Go to taxfreewealthadvisors.com.
Very good. Tom, always good to see you. Thanks so much
nice
for
to
coming
be here.
in this
Thanks
morning.
so much.